Well, good morning, everybody. We are back, and as you can see, it is just myself and Ronnie Ransom this morning. We are so glad to welcome you to House Talk Pregame. I am your host and sports mental health and empowerment coach, Dr. Lauren Pitts. Welcome, welcome, welcome on this beautiful Resurrection Sunday weekend. It is such a joy to be back with you. Ronnie and I are going to hold it down while we're waiting for our colleagues to tie up with a bow their other responsibilities that have kept them away from us this time. And, want to shout out again and acknowledge what a tremendous contribution that Carla Debro made with us over those weeks that she was filling in for Jared and Andre. So thank you, Carla. We hope you're having a beautiful weekend and that you'll look at that schedule that I forgot to send to you, but we'll send to you. Um, Dr. Pitts is busy to get you back on at your earliest convenience. Well, folk, look, it, House Talk Pregame is all about family. It's all about your family, our HBCU family, our Heritage Sports Radio Network family, Black and Brown families all over the nation and all around the world. But here's the interesting caveat about House Talk Pregame. The information that we share is applicable to anybody. We do focus on Black and Brown communities because if you had noticed, we're Black and Brown. And so there are some issues that plague our communities that are near and dear to our heart here at HT Pregame. But certainly if you listen and if you watch the show, you will know that a lot of the information that we share week in and week out can be applied to any individual, can be applied to anyone's life. And we want to make sure that you're getting this information as well. Why? Because week after week, we pride ourselves on shining the light on tons of valuable information to help you, your family, scholar athletes, professional athletes, and their families, everybody who's invested in living a more positive and productive life, everybody who's invested in living the life that you love living. But we know that it's nuanced, right? There's some caveats that go along with that when you look at things through a sports lens. And then when you create this marriage between sports and mental health, oh my goodness, some things that come into play will blow your mind. So we take this approach to behavioral mental health and sports that our hope is that it will be instrumental in enhancing the performance of student and professional athletes. We hope that it will provide valuable knowledge on how to navigate some of the things that come up in the athletic and family relationship world. So this is a big deal to us. And we want you to know that you can catch our show at this time every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not only here on Facebook Live, you can join us as part of the digital studio audience if you want to. The link goes out periodically through the week. But we're also on Heritage Sports Radio Network at 11 a.m. on Saturdays, at 10 p.m. on Saturdays, and at 6 p.m. on Sundays. And you can get that app. It's real easy. Just go into the App Store, put in Heritage Sports Radio Network, get that app downloaded. You can listen to us anytime. We want to make sure that we're positively impacting your life, that you're getting this information. And with this month, the month of April being Financial Literacy Awareness Month, we thought that it would be appropriate to shed some highlights on things that we think you need to be cognizant of when it comes to your finances in and outside of the sports world. We have a financial expert that's going to be joining us for next week's show and the last week of the month to give you some professional tips on finances. But Ronnie and I are going to chop it up, and he's going to tell you right now more about what today's show is offering you. Ronnie?
All right. Good morning once again, everybody. Glad to be back for this wonderful Saturday, Easter weekend. I hope everybody's getting ready for Easter tomorrow. I know I am. I'm getting ready for this versus battle tomorrow night between Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Isley Brothers, hosted by Steve Harvey. Can't wait. I'm gonna give y'all a little sneak peek. I just ordered my afro yesterday. It's coming today. I'm taking it back to the 70s for y'all. I promise y'all. Check in tomorrow on my Instagram. I'm taking it
Oh
back to the
my
70s. So,
gosh.
anyways, and to give another like Dr. Pitt said, it's just me and her today. Shout out to her son Andre Garlic, who will be joining us shortly, and then also our longtime co-host Jared Johnston. I wanted to give an update for him real quick, just to let you know, Dr. Pitts and everybody else who's listening, that they finished their season off undefeated. They won last night. They beat Woodbridge High School 31-14 for the second consecutive year. So they finished the season 6-0, and they are number one in the region for the postseason. Number one in the northern region for Virginia. So shout out to Jared Johnson and the Garfield High School football team for going undefeated. It's been a crazy football season. I can't wait for Jared to join us again at the end of their season so he can talk to us about how their season was playing in the spring as opposed to playing in the fall. So shout out to Jared and Garfield for that. But like Dr. Pitt said, so today we're going to be talking about financial literacy in athletes of color. So the persistent racial wealth gap is pushing pro athletes to champion financial literacy for Black kids and teens. They're doing everything from going into schools and colleges to investing in and sponsoring financial literacy programs and apps. So we're going to talk about why some of our famous professional athletes, such as Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins, Michael Thomas, and others, are starting to invest in our youth and helping them understand and build their financial literacy for their futures. Also, we're going to be talking about some tips for student athletes currently who are in college and getting ready to start college. What can I do as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old? What can I do to put myself in the right foot and build a strong financial foundation so when I graduate, whether I go professional or not, I have enough financial literacy about me to where I can start adulthood on the right foot. And as always, we're bringing you mental health tips of the week as well. So I guess we can go ahead and get right started into the mental health tips of the week. So I will go first as always, because Dr. Pitts, once she gets started, hey, like I said, she deserves an Oscar for each week because she's letting y'all know what's going on. But I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna warm her up for y'all real quick. So my my mental health tip of the week is gonna be geared around our topic today, financial literacy and stuff like that. So I want to talk about impulse control when it comes to buying and spending money. Buying and spending money on unnecessary things. So one of the tips that I had learned, and this was after college and stuff like that, and it took me a very long time to really, really use this tip, was what I call the 48-hour rule. And for me, I used to be a very bad impulse buyer. If I saw something and I really liked it and I knew I had the money for it, I was getting it. And won't no doubts about it, won't no ifs, ands, or buts, I was going to get it. Even if I didn't have it and I really wanted it, I'd be like, all right, well, if I spend this now, then I'll just pull this from next month's check or this week's check. We'll figure it out. Very impulsive buyer when it comes to just buying stuff I wanted as opposed to getting stuff I needed. So I can't remember who I heard talk about the 48-hour rule. I want to say it might have been Jay-Z or some famous celebrity, somebody that talked about the 48-hour rule. But the 48-hour rule is, if you see something that you like, wait 48 hours. No matter if it's a piece of jewelry, a video game, a car, clothes, whatever it is. If you really want it just because you want to have it, wait 48 hours. If after 48 hours you still want it that bad, then make sure it makes sense and go ahead and purchase it. All right. So that was what I used to do to help me with my impulse buying. Now, when I first started this rule, I'll tell you this right now. When I first started this, even after 48 hours, hell, it could have been 48 days. If I really wanted it that bad, I was gonna get it. I just wanted it. And for those who are listening, I'm pretty sure you can agree with this. Oftentimes the stuff that we really, really want really bad, once we get it and we have it, we're just kind of like, okay, it's cool, we got it. You mess around with it for a couple of days and then you just kind of discard it off to the side and you come back to it here and there. That lets you know that what you really wanted was just a want and not a need. And oftentimes in today's society, we fill our lives up with a whole bunch of material wants as opposed to material needs. So for those, especially for you student athletes who get refund checks every semester and stuff like that, and you want to go get a brand new outfit, brand new wardrobe every semester, brand new cars, brand new rims every semester. Whatever it is that you want to purchase, if you categorize it as a want, wait 48 hours. If after 48 hours, if you feel like it makes sense and you really want it that bad, go ahead and make that purchase. But don't make a purchase at the cost of your priorities, or you putting yourself in a deeper financial hole than you already are. Or if you're not in a financial hole, don't put yourself in one just because you want something really bad. That is very poor impulse control. And if I see that you have 9 out of 10, if I see that you have very bad impulse control with your spending habits, I'm pretty sure you also have very bad impulse control in other areas of your life that we can probably explore and talk about outside of just money, whether it's relationships, your diet, your hygiene, how you interact with others, your relationships with family and friends. If you have poor impulse control with spending habits and money, you probably have poor impulse control in other areas of your life. So money, I always tell people, always use money first, because without it, you would have a lot of other issues going on. So if you can get your impulse control for money habits and stuff like that, you can pretty much practice good self impulse control in a lot of other areas of your life. So that is my mental health tip of the week. Dr. Pitts, the floor is yours.
Ronnie, you always acting like I do stuff on purpose. So first, real quick, to piggyback on what you said. So that is an excellent tip. I actually take 2 weeks, and that's something that because I did hear the 48-hour rule growing up, but then as I've gotten older and my spending habits, the ticket items have gotten much bigger because everybody tells me I have really expensive taste. I'm like, and your point is what? What does that have to do with anything? Um, I take 2 weeks and try to really be deliberate and intentional to looking at the pros and cons. I really now, and I know maybe it's just age at this stage of the game. I am committed to looking at reasons why I shouldn't buy it, right? Can you hear me now? Is this better? Can you hear me now?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Um, I'll take that 2 week period, right? And I'll try and talk myself out of it legitimately. And then if I can talk myself out of it, to your point, I was like, I didn't need it. And there have been times I've gotten much, much, much better at saying, you know what, I really don't need that, and just don't do it. And it's discipline. It's really discipline.
Absolutely.
So great point. What I want to touch on for my tip is my money. That's my money. How he gonna tell me what I can do with my money? That's his money. Okay, wait. The moment that you enter into a committed relationship, whether you're married to the person or dating, particularly for those that are cohabitating, if you are supposed to be building a life together, there's some areas of your life where the I should become we. And if you have difficulty doing that, you might want to take a look at the value of that relationship within a number of different contexts in your life, because you're coming in already divided. And I don't know about what you all are reading, but that word that I read says that a house divided against itself cannot stand. So, I understand that as an adjustment. And then here's the other thing. Here we go. So, Dr. Fitz, you just don't understand. He all bad with money and everything. And every time you turn around, our bank account will be overdrawn, and I don't even want to deal with this. Why are you marrying him?
That's real talk. Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that an option? Why is that not something that's being addressed? And why would you open a joint bank account with someone before having appropriate discussions on where they are in their financial literacy? What's their credit score? Do they have liens against them for anything? Are there any public records against them? where you mess around and look, you go to get groceries, boop, card denied. Why? And then you find out that your assets are frozen because you done hooked up with somebody that owes the IRS. You didn't know they owed it. Come on now. Come on. Folk get so caught up in the sexual intimacy of a relationship that they don't have the appropriate conversations that need to be had in intimate relationships. Financial literacy is absolutely positively a relationship that you must have. You got men out here that take issue with the fact that their woman is the breadwinner. You have women out here that take issue with the fact that they're the breadwinner. You have, there is such a thing that's called economic abuse. That's a whole nother show. But the moral to the story here, folks, is financial literacy. When you look at the divorce statistics in relationships, one of the biggest issues why people get divorced is finances.
I
So
think that's
now
the
when
number
you
one
back,
reason, right? Besides
yeah,
infidelity, yeah.
yeah. So now when you look at, okay, let's look at what that looks like within the context of sports. And, you know, we share week in and week out the pressures that are on athletes to perform. The fact that until they get this name, image, likeness thing sorted out with the NCAA, that athletes, you know, aren't really receiving compensation for their name, image, or likeness right now. They're living, you know, hand to mouth, pillow to post, trying to figure out how stuff's going to get taken care of. So then you end up going to the league, and throughout, you know, we'll talk about some of those stats and how quick professional athletes are ending up broke.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem. It is something that needs to be discussed. Stop walking around with dollar signs in your eyes and actually have substantive conversations about where each of you are when it comes to your financial literacy. And oh, by the way, why are we not teaching our children about financial literacy as a people? It is something that is a tremendous, tremendous problem. For many years, I was a volunteer for Junior Achievement. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
best programs that Junior Achievement has is their financial literacy program. So, for those of you listening in, for those of you watching, if you are don't know, if you are not fully competent in your understanding with regards to financial literacy, make it your business to connect to someone that can help you. Every bank in the country has a wealth management advisor. Don't make the assumption in financial ignorance of thinking, oh, well, I don't have any wealth to manage. Excuse you. You need to learn how to manage it before you get it. So that's my tip of the week. The other thing that I wanted to put out there, Ronnie, is a disclaimer that I was advised to give. So apparently there are people
Mm-hmm.
who question if I suffer from angry Black woman syndrome because I come as hard as I do. So I was suggested, one of my mentors and advisors suggested to me to share a disclaimer every week that says, I do not suffer from angry Black woman syndrome. I don't. However, there are some things that anger me. And
Mm-hmm.
if you hear Ronnie and I talk week in and week out, because we are mental health practitioners, one of the things you may have heard us say before is that anger is a secondary emotion. And what that means is that there are other, if you look at anger like an iceberg, and anger is the tip of the iceberg, underneath the surface are all of these other behaviors, all of these other emotions that are fueling what's manifesting itself in the form of anger. So I want to apologize to anyone that I may have offended because I come as hard as I do. I actually take pride in coming as hard as I do because I think it takes courage. I think it takes courage to be authentically who one is. I think that it takes courage to have the hard conversations. I think it takes courage to say it the way that I feel it without being, you know, all bound by, oh my goodness, you know, they're not ready to hear that. I my attitude and my belief system says society and the world that we live in as people of color, we've been getting our backs kicked in since our ancestors came over here flat on their backs in shackles and chains.
Mm-hmm.
I I don't sugarcoat. I don't sugarcoat anything. And I don't apologize for not sugarcoating. What I will apologize for is for anyone that I may have offended because I didn't forewarn them what I was about to do to them. So go ahead, Ronnie.
It's funny you say that because, well, it's not funny. It's actually kind of disheartening that you said that you had actually had to have that conversation, because I always find it funny how when either a Black man or a Black woman is passionate about something, somehow, some way it gets turned into angry Black man syndrome or angry Black woman syndrome, especially for women. And I'll just focus on Black women for example. I will say this, and you say this every week, we have adult conversations on this show. While these conversations are for a younger viewing audience, I mean, it's for audience of all ages, but we gear our show towards the younger audience, our college student athletes, high school student athletes, Pee-wee student athletes and their families. But, I think as a society, we have to get rid of this mindset that when somebody's passionate, or as Ray Lewis used to say, and I love when Ray Lewis said, I'm pissed off for excellence.
Ooh, that's good.
Like I'm pissed off for excellence.
Yeah.
When I hear you talk, and when I hear you, we like to joke and say when you go on your rants and stuff like that, we laugh and joke and all that. But we hear that you're pissed off for excellence. You want excellence for your people. Black people, people of color, you want that excellence. And when you don't see it, when you see people being denied their chance to be excellent and stuff like that, you get pissed off. That's a natural reaction. That is a natural reaction to seeing your people for so long be denied the chance to be excellent. So, I don't know who you had that conversation with. I know you said you had that conversation with a mentor, but me personally, I would push back and say, don't confuse angry, mad Black woman syndrome for being pissed off for excellence and being passionate for your people, because that's a quick way to dismiss the hard work, the effort, the time, the dedication that you put in, not only for this show, but for your career and for your family and stuff like that. If you weren't pissed off for excellence, you wouldn't be having these conversations. We wouldn't have this platform right now. We wouldn't have this audience that we've built up over the last 6 months if you were not pissed off for excellence.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that you had to even have that conversation because of your passion, because of your commitment to Black excellence, to people of color's excellence. I'm sorry that you even had to have that conversation and even justify how you feel, and I think we have to stop this, doing this to Black women. Like every time they get upset, oh, they're angry. I don't know if you saw this on social media this week, but Tom Hanks' son had found himself in a domestic altercation with a African-American female. And this rapper, the Game, who was a rapper, and his comment was, hey Chet, you might want to go back to Becky, white women or whatever, because you might not be ready for this level of angry. And all throughout his comments when he made that post, Black women were just saying, why we always got to be angry? Why every time somebody does something we got to be angry? And that's partly true. I saw this TED talk of this African-American professor, and she talked about how it's crazy how Black women so easily get categorized as anger, when 9 times out of 10 it's either they're hurt, they're not getting fair treatment, they're not being heard, they're not being understood. We talk about this all the time with our clients, and we tell people all the time, when you're not heard, when you feel like you're misunderstood, when you feel like, just like you talk about the iceberg, at the top of the iceberg you see angry. What you fail to realize, and what people choose to be oblivious to, is everything that encompasses being angry. And it's not necessarily about being angry. It's about being fed up to a point where if you're not going to listen to me when I'm calm and I'm composed and stuff like that, well, hell, let me turn up and get angry so you can hear what I'm saying, because clearly the only way you hear me is when I reach this level. And that's unfair to you and the other Black women in this world, and especially in this country, who have to justify their passion and their want to be great, their want to be excellent, and have the people around them be excellent. It's a shame that it has to be just broken down to why you always sound so angry. You're angry because you're pissed off for excellence. That's why. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So I'm sorry as a black man that you had to even justify why you were pissed off for excellence. I don't think that's fair to you or any other black woman that walks this earth. And not just black women, I mean everybody in general. For you, if you're pissed off for excellence and you want better for your people, you should not have to be broken down and just say, oh, that's angry black woman disorder or angry white woman disorder. No, you're pissed off for excellence. Like, that's what it is. You want your people to be great. You're doing what you can do, but you're only one person. You're only one person who can you can only change so many lives. But those lives you change, I'm pretty sure everybody who I'm pretty sure everybody who you might have had been angry with, I'm pretty sure they sit back and say, man, if it weren't for Dr. Pitts getting angry with me and really be putting me in my place, I wouldn't be where I am. So no, I wouldn't call that angry black woman disease. I would call that pissed off for excellence.
But thank you for that reframe.
No problem. No problem. I couldn't let that one rock. It's crazy how as soon as a black woman gets passionate about something, oh, she's so angry. Why is she talking with that tone? Why she always look mean?
Yeah.
Like, come on,
people.
Oh,
I get why do you look so serious all the time? I get that all the time. Why do you look like your puppy just died? Why do you look so serious all the time? Why do you look mad? And I'm like, look, I can't see me. I don't walk around with a mirror in my hand saying, oh, let me see how I look today. I don't.
Always tell people when you walk around mediocrity, you get pissed off when you walk around mediocrity. I would argue that me and you probably are both empaths. We feel energy. We feed off people's energy. And when you walk around mediocrity energy, and when you walk around people who have poor energy, you feel that. So you kind of go into a defense mode where it's like, no, I can't let that energy seep into me because your self-worth or your confidence or your self-esteem or how you feel about yourself is so low. You want to bring me down to you so you don't feel intimidated by what I'm doing. It sounds like that was an intimidating comment that they tried to make. Well, Dr. Pitts, you getting real mad on here. You really turning up. No, you pissed off for excellence.
You know what though, Ronnie? So part of it, so everything that you said makes sense. I try to be very deliberate and intentional, and I know I say that a bazillion times every week, but I try to be deliberate and intentional in taking what I can, from what's meant to be constructive criticism or constructive feedback. And then I just, I accept what I can apply and I discard the rest. As you were speaking, and it reminded me of something that I said in the midst of that conversation, is that I thought about when I was watching the documentary on our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, in Becoming. Mm-hmm. And when she was, they were talking about how she was perceived as an angry Black woman and how they, the image coaches and all of that had to work with her to soften in the whole 9 yards. And I said, well, I'm not Michelle Obama. I'm Lauren. I'm Dr. Lauren Pitts. And that, but here's what made me think about it. When I thought about some of the heavy hitters, mm-hmm. The A-listers in society, not just in Hollywood. When I think about how reserved Oprah is, how reserved, though we know she can get a little bit tight, Gayle King is, and Regina King, and Cecily Tyson was.
Viola Davis.
Right. I mean, some of the Black producers of color that are in Hollywood. And I said, well, you know what? I'm not privy to conversations that they have in the boardroom. I don't know if they ever get riled up or not. But as far as their social persona, they're very, very, very conservative. They're very laid back. They're very chilled. I even noticed, and I literally just said this to my mom a couple of days ago, when we were watching the NAACP awards. I said, Mom, have you ever noticed that the women of color in Hollywood, nobody has fingernails? Nobody has fingernails, meaning that, and I keep my nails done.
That is interesting that you say that. I never thought about that.
Long, right? And I said, not like crazy long, not unsanitary long, but I have really long fingers. I prefer my nails long because I believe that it accents the beauty of my hands, not because I'm
Mhm.
ghetto or anything like that. But I said, why I'm bringing this up, Ronnie, and I think that it's relevant on this platform is because it made me question the authenticity of whether or not we're permitted to be who we really are as women of color in the public eye,
Mhm.
or if we have to pretend to be something else. And it just, and just so you know, so people don't, because folk are great for twisting your words. I am not suggesting that Oprah and Gail and Regina and all of the other, women of color that are trailblazers for those of us that have yet to arrive. I'm not saying that they're not authentic. What I'm saying is that I wonder if they present the way they do because they learned very early on the art of the game. And if what we see publicly is how they really are privately. I don't know because I
Mhm.
don't know any of them. I don't. But here's the interesting caveat to this. When I look comparatively at men of color that are in the public eye, everybody knows Steve Harvey is raw as they come.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
He don't play around. And until that whole interview with Monique that sort of put a bump in the road in some of the things that he had going on, he was loved, respected. Yeah, there are people who don't like him, but he was loved and respected and cherished and all of that. And he's doing extraordinary work on so
Mhm.
many different levels, right? When I think about how um, you know, how vocal Jamie Foxx has been at times, or when I think about how vocal Kobe Bryant was, or LeBron, there are definitely men of color that have been extremely vocal, but they don't seem, at least not based on my perception, they don't get the same
Blow
response as,
blowback.
yeah.
And I would agree with that. And I think a lot of that has to do with, this portrayal of, well, women have a certain role, men have a certain role. Women aren't supposed to be vocal about social issues, where men are supposed to be the saviors for all social issues and stuff like that. I definitely agree with that. There's definitely a different perception about when a Black man speaks passionately about something compared to when a Black woman speaks passionately about something. And, I always say, sometimes it doesn't matter who the messenger is if the message makes sense.
Yeah.
That's not all cases, but in this particular case, I would definitely argue that, especially, and I've never been a Black woman before, so I can't sit here and say I know what it's like to be a Black woman or anything, but I have Black women in my family. I have a Black wife, Black women run through my family everywhere. And, you see this same constant theme. I always tell people there's always themes to life. And the theme I've always seen for Black women is be seen but not heard. And if you heard, it's always going to be, oh, well, she's angry, or she's just, she's just upset because she's not getting something and stuff like that. When in all reality, we always talk about this post-traumatic slave syndrome. Think about, I always tell people, women are the superpowers that you all have, and the gifts that you all have, as for men, when we give a woman something, you all multiply it and you make it that much better. you know so when we deny that, and we turn a blind eye to the powers that women have, and the things that women can offer to us in the society, we're almost cutting off, half of an energy source and half a supply source, because, well, men want all the credit, or, well, men got to be the leaders and stuff like that. I always tell people, and to your point earlier when we were talking about couples and finances, when you're a couple, when you're a married couple, y'all are together, y'all are one. Y'all come together as one. So how can a man sit there and say, to the public, well, me and my wife are equal, but behind closed doors, her opinion and her, what she's got going on doesn't matter to him? That's not equality.
Right.
So yeah, I do agree that, and I do feel like, and we know this, for the Black people who have made it to Hollywood and made it to a certain status and stuff like that, we both know that, they do unfortunately have to portray themselves a certain way and be very, very careful, unfortunately, about how they talk, because, you got to learn how to play the game, and you have to play the game to be able to benefit other people. Always, I can't think of his name right now, but he's a fashion designer. And he had a lot of blowback last year when he partnered with Gucci. And his whole thing was like, y'all look, coming at me for partnering with Gucci, but then y'all get mad when Gucci doesn't have any, diversity inclusion in their products and stuff. Well, somebody's got to sit in these meetings. Right. Somebody's got to be that person to come into these meetings and be like, well, hey, look, this is not what we got going. This is not what we got going on. This does not represent us. So, for those who hold those positions of power and hold that position of, fame and stuff like that, that is a fine line they have to walk between being passionate about something they care about and something that affects them and people who look like them, and also being able to maintain their livelihood and stuff like that. So I think that is a very unfortunate thing that does happen, and it's a conversation that we have to keep going and keep having to bring awareness to it and let people know, especially Black women. Like I always tell, y'all are super women. Just in nature, y'all are super women. I married a superwoman, and watching her being pregnant right now and what she's doing, I mean, she's creating a human life, and that's a superpower right there. Like us as men, if we had to do that, there'd probably be 8 people on this planet. Like I'm not even lying to you. If we had to do that, there'd be 8 people on this planet. So, I always tell people, as a man, it's my job to create a space for my wife where she can do what she wants to do and feel safe in our relationship. Not that I have to rely on her or she has to rely on me. I create that space for her where she can do and follow her passions and inform, opinions about things that she might never thought she could ever be around because of how she looks and the color of her skin and stuff like that. So many Black women go through that where they feel like they have to do this, they have to talk like this, they have to act like that. No, as men, we have to create that space for our women and let them know, like, look, you matter in this world. You are important in this world. And we need to uplift y'all and bring awareness to y'all's voices and opinions because they matter. Do you think Martin Luther King was out here making all these speeches and doing all these marches by himself? Hell no. Coretta was right there beside him in his ear. Yeah. Look, you got to do this. You got to keep it going. Yeah. They always say they say behind every great man is a greater woman. I say beside every great man is an even greater woman. Yeah, because without y'all, we couldn't do it. We could not do it.
The Bible says, "He that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains the favor of the Lord."
Absolutely, I would say finds a irreplaceable treasure. If you find a wife, irreplaceable treasure. So
let's talk about this money.
Well, real quick, I just got a news alert, and I just want for our viewers out there to to just be aware and send prayers out right now. But rapper DMX is in the hospital after suffering a drug overdose and having a heart attack.
Oh my gosh!
And substance abuse is one of the things that we talk about heavily on this show, and especially with celebrities, athletes, and stuff like that. How battling substance abuse can make or break you. And those who are familiar with DMX know that substance abuse has been something that he's dealt with his entire adulthood, maybe even childhood. I don't know, but at least it's been recorded in his adulthood. So sending prayers to him and his family that he pulls through. I just wanted to put that out there. Everybody keep him in your prayers, and anybody who's dealing with substance abuse issues, please pray for them and help them steer themselves in the right direction and get the help they need. That unfortunate event, but just prayers to him and his family. But yeah, let's get into this topic. So like we said, today's topic is financial literacy and athletes of color. So I would argue, and I'm pretty sure Dr. Pitts would also argue, that probably one of the biggest motivating factors for people wanting to become professional athletes is the dollar signs.
Got that paper.
At the end of the day, and I mean, everybody wants to be comfortable. Everybody wants to make money. But as for professional athletes, you make a ton of money, a ton of money. And oftentimes, if you're 19, 20 years old in the NBA or 21 and 22 in the NFL, soon as you sign your name on a dotted line, you go from being poverty level to the 1%ers in a matter of a few seconds after you sign that dotted line. Now, that is a complete dramatization of how that process works. And I don't want to discredit the hard work that people put into getting to that moment when they sign that contract. However, we do have a blaring issue going on here. I just looked it up before the show this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So on average, those who play in the NBA and at least get one contract, one nice size, the average contract in the NBA is about 2 or 3 million. So those who play in the NBA and then retire, 60% of NBA athletes who retire are broke within 5 years. That number is almost 70% for NFL players who are broke within 5 years after retiring from their sport. Now, like I've said over previous shows, we'll just use the NFL for example. The average NFL player plays for about 3.2 years. So about 3 seasons they play in the NFL. So most people get picked up at 22, 23 years old. So by 27, you're out of the NFL. 70% of NFL players who are out of the NFL by 27, by 32, they've spent all that money that they've made in the NFL. That is a big issue. And we see this every year. We hear about these conversations every year about athletes talking about not going broke, spending their money wisely, doing the right things, putting it in proper investments and stuff like that. But for some reason, even after all these conversations, these workshops, these forums and stuff like that, why is the number still 60 and 70% for the NBA and NFL athletes going broke? That is an issue. What the hell is going on? You know, for me, for example, and I've always, you know, when I was 18 years old and I got my first refund check from Virginia State, it was $1,600. That money was gone in an hour. So was gone in an hour. I mean, literally, I went to South Park Mall over here in Colonial Heights, Virginia. Thought I was a baller. Thought I was part of the money team or something. So I can only imagine what it's like being a 19-year-old player about to go into the NBA or a 22-year-old kid about to go to the NFL and get drafted in the first round. And I'm literally an instant millionaire. And we talked about this heavily last week about these systems that have been perpetuated amongst student athletes, especially student athletes of color, of them being the savior for their family, them being the one to make it out of their area for their family. And what we see is not only does this also have a mental health strain on their psyche and stuff like this also has a financial strain on their psyche as well, feeling like they have to be the savior. YouTube has a series where rookie athletes for the NBA, NFL, they have a series on there called My First Million. Mm-hmm. How did you spend your first million? And most of these new rookies for the NBA, NFL, they come in and it's kind of like the same thing. They bought a house, bought a car, bought their mom a house, bought their dad a house, bought their dad a truck, or bought their uncle something, gave this family member 10,000 here, gave this family member 20,000 here. And it's not hard to blow $1 million when you have it. No. Just like it's not hard to blow $100 if you got it. It's not hard to blow $10 if you got it. Right. So we see this same cycle over and over again for these young student athletes of getting all this money, getting into a ton of debt, and then once your playing career is over and that money is no longer coming in, well, where's the residual income? Where is the passive income? Where is it at? It's gone. And they always tell you, if you spend the money like you got it coming in, once it stops coming in and you continue to spend that money like it's coming in, it's gone. Then you're looking around like, well, what's going on? And then you hear the same thing. Oh, well, how you blow your money? Why are you broke? What happened? You don't have no self-control. What's going on? You had all this money. If I had that money, I would have done it completely different. So Dr. Pitt, share with us your thoughts on, this topic of, athletes, especially athletes of color, gaining financial literacy.
Ignorance is bliss, and some people are blistered. I think that it, and I say it all the time, it's systemic. When I think about, in my youth, the conversations that didn't happen around finances, the conversations that didn't happen around what is a FICO score, what is a Beacon score, what are the credit bureaus, what do they do, what does credit mean? What am I supposed to do with this $1,000 Discover card that they offered me at 18 years old, my freshman year in college? Ooh, $1,000, What is the best type of bank account to open? Should I open a bank account? Those were conversations that just simply did not happen. I remember, Ronnie, that my uncle, I was working part-time at Salem McDonald's, making, look, minimum wage back then, Ronnie, was $3.35 an hour, right? Disrespectful, just hearing that number,
Jesus.
right? Yeah. And it was just, there were two people, interestingly enough, men in my life. My uncle, which was my mom's baby brother, and my grandfather were the ones that sat me down and had a conversation with me about money. That, Ronnie, I didn't even, and it's no diss to my mom, or even to, my stepdad, but nobody said, "Oh, you have a paycheck coming now." Ronnie, I didn't even know how to cash my paycheck. No, you know what I'm
Mm,
saying? I didn't know that I had to endorse the back of it and take it to the bank. And oh, by the way, if you don't have an account, they're going to charge you to get. Nobody had those conversations. And I would suffice it to say there's a lot of people in our communities that aren't having those conversations because nobody had the conversations with them. So the moral to the story here is, if you're not taught in your youth the value of a dollar, if all you're ever taught is that you got to work hard for your money, what that does, and I'm actually, you all know that one of my mentors is a wealth manager for one of the major banks in the country. But in addition to that, I'm constantly educating myself about finances. I'm constantly expanding my financial literacy. And one of the programs that I'm currently enrolled in talks about mental money blockers, right? And those
mm,
old paradigms, those old thought processes that we were taught in our youth about money. And when you think about, particularly, this might not be applicable in upper middle class or upper class families of color. So I'm going to target this part of the conversation on the impoverished folks that tune into the show. That you can't teach what you don't know. And if the mindset is always going to be that you're always going to be broken, you're never going to have, and that multi-generational curse of poverty and lack and need and want, that in and of itself is a problem, because you have an impoverished mindset. And oh, by the way, hard work isn't the primary way that you build wealth. So it's important to have those informative conversations, whether it's with someone in your financial institution, meaning your bank, because they're not teaching financial literacy in schools. You know, you, I said this to someone one time, and then I'll shut up so that you can chime back in, Ronnie, is that um, I, in having, as you can imagine, I'm blessed and fortunate that at this juncture in my career, I have a global presence. So I have conversations with people from all over the world about varying topics, right? And we were having a conversation, and someone was talking to me about purchasing a home. And I said, "Well, who who told you that?" And they were like, "Oh, well, so and so." And I said, "Well, have they ever purchased a home?" "Well, no." Well, um, has anybody in your family ever purchased a home? "Well, no." I said, "Well, no disrespect, but why would you listen to them? Why would you seek to obtain information about something that you aspire to achieve from people who don't know anything about it?" That just
absolutely.
conceptually makes no sense.
Hmm.
So the tip that I want folk to consider here is, in order for you to become financially literate, you have to be deliberate and intentional in connecting yourself with people who truly understand how money works and can truly educate you and empower you about how to invest and what you should be doing and when you should be doing it and how you should be doing it. That every conversation that didn't happen with me in my youth, I started having with Andre when he was 5 years old,
That's
because
powerful.
knowledge is power. Knowledge
Absolutely.
is absolutely power. And that's why we made the decision that we are having a financial expert on the show next week. And then it'll just be me and Ronnie the week after that, just sharing more tips based on everything that we've learned about finances. And then the last week we'll have a financial expert on. Um, but the short-winded answer now to the question is I think that the problem is just a lack of knowledge, and that people, you come into all this money because when you and I were talking about those statistics. So basically, you go into the league, you sign this multi-million dollar contract, and in 3 to 5 years, you come out and they have less money than we do.
Yeah,
But look, because I'm a lot of things in life, but I ain't broke.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it kind of piggyback off your conversation, off what you were saying, because I do believe that is just because we don't know. And so for me, for my family, so my mom's side of the family, my grandmother, her mom, had money, had businesses and stuff like that, lived a
Mhm,
very luxurious lifestyle. My
mhm,
dad, on the other hand, you know, country boy, like 11 people in a 3-bedroom house,
mhm,
they lived off the land. They made, they did what they had to do.
yeah,
And so, I always tell people the greatest thing that my parents passed down to me was this concept of hard work. Like everything you got to do has to be hard work. You got to work hard at it.
mhm,
And what I realized is that I was working so hard and not seeing any monetary, benefits from it. I was working in circles.
mhm,
I grew up with the mindset that, if you were working multiple jobs, I mean, well, you were doing something right.
mhm.
And when I had got out of college, when I first graduated, I was working 4 jobs.
Wow.
I was trying to make all the money.
Yeah,
What I didn't realize was I was just making the money for the employers and not making no money for myself, because all those jobs were minimum wage jobs.
yeah,
I'm over here bragging like, yeah, man, I got 4 jobs, I got money and stuff, but I'm only getting paid, 300 and some dollars every 2 weeks. I'm working, 30, 40 hours, at all these jobs, not
mhm,
making no money. And, so I would say I was probably a victim of this too. And, I would argue that a good amount of the population, especially those who might be listening to us, can probably raise their hand and say, yeah, I kind of believe this too.
mhm.
Society has painted this picture that, you go to high school, you go to college, you put all this money into a college education, you
Mhm.
graduate college, go get a brand new car, get an apartment or a brand new house. You about $300,000 worth of debt, and you're only making 40, 50,000 a year.
Right,
And your entire paycheck is already spent on bills and stuff that you've accumulated in that short amount of time.
right.
And so then you see all these people who are just depressed, upset, angry, because, like we always talk about, just because you go to college and get a degree does not mean you're going to be able to live comfortably in the real world.
Yeah.
And we got to get out of that mindset that college equals, financial freedom and financial success. It can be a great tool. It can be a awesome networking tool to put yourself in a position to see financial freedom and to be
Mhm.
comfortable, have a comfortable living style. But so many people, and so many people that I know, so many students that I know, and I'm pretty sure you as well, Dr. Pitts, know that once they graduate college, the first thing they do is go put themselves in an extreme amount of debt. And,
Well,
and that's something
a
that,
lot of people are coming out of college with an exorbitant amount of debt, and nobody teaching them how to manage that debt. People don't understand, and this is something, a tidbit for folks that are listening, something that I learned from my financial, because I said, one of my mentors is a wealth manager, the director of wealth management, and then one, my financial advisor. Um, there were things that I didn't know about how to manage my student loan debt. I
mm,
was paying way too much. I kid you not, Ronnie. When I first graduated with, I came out with my undergrad degree, started paying on my undergrad student loan debt.
mm-hmm,
Then, let's see, I graduated, and then I started my 4 years later, started my master's program. There were things that I didn't know. And I didn't know because I trusted the system to
mm-hmm,
teach me. I thought that all of the information that was made available to me on the Department of Education's website about student loans was all I needed to know.
mm-hmm,
It wasn't until I got all of my financial records, my debts and my assets to my financial advisor. And he reviewed everything and was like, this is all wrong. And I'm like, but what, this, and I literally, I was like, well, this is what, he was like, no, they're not going to tell you this. It was wrong. So when I first came out, my student loan payments were, I kid you not, they were equivalent of a medium-sized mortgage. Like it was bananas.
I believe it. That's how my mom was when she graduated with her master's. I think, I think her student loan payment was more than the mortgage.
Yeah, I mean, just like I literally remember looking at based on the plan that they told me that was ideal for me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember bursting into tears when I saw that payment because I'm like, that I can't afford to live and pay the student loan payment. Like I just can't. And I was making, what society would call decent money. And I'm like, this is not going to work. But my financial advisor schooled me. Literally, this is how awesome it was. My financial advisor, after reviewing my financial records, was like, yeah. And he put me in touch with a student loan expert within the same organization that's all that person specializes on, is helping people to appropriately manage their academic debts. And now it's like, okay, look, now I'm situated and I can take that 2 weeks to decide.
Exactly. And that's a great point that you make, because what is one of the biggest things that you always hear people in their 20s talk about they can't get rid of is student loan debt. And I can't tell you how many friends I have. I mean, I know hundreds of people who if you were to take a survey, they will all say the same thing. They're not paying off their student loan debt before they die. They're going to die with that debt, and they don't even think twice about it. Me, on the other hand, I'm trying to get rid of that debt as quickly as possible.
Like people don't even know about forgiveness. They don't even know that, dependent upon, you and I are blessed and fortunate because the field of study that we're in, our students can be forgiven after 10 years, right?
Absolutely.
People don't know that. People do not know that there are particular fields of study that they can go into, that when they come, not fields of study, but particular lines of work, that they can go into that will position them, that as long as they make 120 consecutive appointments for their student loan, payments for their student loan, that in 10 years that debt can be forgiven. People don't know that.
I got another gem for you. I don't know if you ever heard this one too. If you start a nonprofit,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
you get to enter in the same loan forgiveness program as those fields of study do. If you start a nonprofit, and I know, I'm pretty sure the startup cost is different for each state. If you happen to live in the state of Virginia, if you're listening right now, the average startup cost for a nonprofit is only $400.
Wow.
And that and not only does a nonprofit have student loan relief benefits, it also has it has taxable deduction benefits as well for your taxes and stuff like that. So, but these are things that are not discussed at all, and at any level, especially when I was coming through school. We did 1 week of finances my senior year in high school for government class. We took 1 week, and literally that 1 week we talked about how to write a check, what a savings in a checking account is, how to get a credit card, and that was it. That's all we did. And so there's all these tidbits and stuff like that is out there. However, gearing this conversation towards the lower income population and stuff like that, understand that there are many avenues and resources out there for you, that you don't have to find yourself in a mountain high pile of debt. And one of the things I always tell high school athletes and student athletes, and even kids who are currently in college, there are scholarships out there that people are just giving away.
Bestweb.com is your friend.
Scholarships.com is also a good one. Dr. Piss, I can't tell you no lie. I got a $500 scholarship just for being left-handed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just for being left-handed.
Poems, you writing poems, getting 2-3 G's for
and it adds up.
All type of stuff.
and it adds up. And and I know I've been harping on this the last couple of episodes, but I really want people to listen to me when I say this.
Mm-hmm.
Our economy is changing. Our world is changing.
Mm-hmm.
This whole mentality of going to college, getting a degree, and thinking you just gonna find a job on graduation day, those days are gone, people. Though, especially for the millennial generation, Gen Z, and I like to call them the quarantine baby generation when they get older. The
They're gonna be Gen Q.
the COVID cuties is what I'm gonna call them.
Oh my God.
So for everybody, born, I would say after the year 1980 or whatever, things are different. Society is different. It's not like, my parents and stuff like that, where you could have a GED or a high school education and just work at a company 40, 50 years and work your way up. And now you got this nice pension. You can retire at 65, collect Social Security, and sail off into the sunset. I tell people, especially my age, if you're relying on Social Security, you're banking on Social Security by the time we get 65, oh, you can kiss that goodbye. You can kiss that goodbye, because I don't think that would be a thing of the past. I think that'll be a thing of the past. And also, people got to realize robots are replacing a lot of jobs. Technology is replacing a lot of jobs that people still go to school for. They still spend thousands of dollars on a college education for that. They are literally, to this day, replacing them with robots and other technology to do the job. So I challenge these people who go to school and are getting a degree. You have to seriously ask yourself, is my passion gonna pay a profit for me to live comfortably enough? You really have to ask yourself that question. For those of you who want to be, criminal justice majors, mass comm majors, things like that, things where, people like for mass comm majors, you can be a YouTube star, you can start your own channel, Twitch channel, stuff like that, and have an audience and have a crowd of people with you and have no type of formal education to do it. But though you got people who go to school for 4 and 5 years, get $50,000-$60,000 worth of debt, and they can't find a job, and even an entry-level job wouldn't even cover half their student loan payment.
Right. No, that's real. And it ties into, that's all a part of financial literacy, being able to do a cost benefit analysis on whether or not pursuing continued education after high school is beneficial to you. What is going to position you to be able to live the quality of life that you want to live? And do you have the skill set? Because acquiring wealth, building wealth isn't about the smartest person. It's not about, oh, how smart you are. You know what I mean? I've often said that if drug kingpins or even the lower level drug dealer could put their business sense into action, that they could build wealth in legal ways, because the skill set that is required to run a drug ring is actually very complicated. So, you know what I mean? Go ahead.
I saw I saw a post on social media this week, and it was like, fellas, if you can convince a woman to be your third baby mama, then you can go out here and sell these houses and be a real estate agent or go get you a real job. And it's true. People, to your point,
Transfer those skills
absolutely.
into something legal and lucrative and gainful, and and stop breaking it down. But when we look at all of this within the context of financial literacy, and circling back to you know why the athletes are going broke, I also think, Ronnie, and you said it point blank, is that particularly for those that grow up in poverty. And how many times have you heard me say, does the NFL, does the NBA, does the MLB have systems and measures in place to teach these athletes how to manage this money? When you go from living in the projects to multi-millions of dollars in your bank account, literally at the stroke of a pen. It's like the stroke of the pen and signing your name is like putting in your PIN number to take money out of the ATM. It's like cha-ching, and the money is there. I mean, let's talk about some of the greats that we know that have gone broke. Michael
Scottie
Vick.
Pippen.
Yeah. I mean,
Charles Barkley at one point, Mike Tyson,
yeah.
I don't want to say Tracy McGrady's name. I don't think it was him because he's doing pretty well for himself now. But I mean, there's plenty of NBA,
Yeah,
NFL stars.
endless numbers.
Jamarcus Russell is one that really comes to mind because Jamarcus Russell was one of the last group of NFL rookies who were drafted, where if you were drafted in the first round, particularly the number 1 overall pick, your signing bonus was 70, 80 million. I think when he got drafted by Oakland, I think his signing bonus was almost 40 million as soon as he signed his contract. Yeah. And he was out of the league within, I think, 3 years. Number 1 overall pick.
Gone. And you know what I said, and when I think about the millionaires and the multimillionaires that I know, that I personally know and have relationships with and the whole 9 yards, and they weren't always millionaires, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that remains constant in the narratives that I get from each of them is discipline, discipline, discipline. Absolutely. It is all about discipline. And I've said, I remember, and I'm not knocking, this is not a hate speech. I'm not knocking anything that anybody says or does. And this might seem stupid to some people, but this is just who I am. I think about books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I think about, books, and I forget the author of, Millionaire Next Door. And I think about the different books that I've read on wealth management and financial literacy and what have you. And the word discipline just rings through constantly, nonstop. There has to be a level of discipline. And in that, Ronnie, one of the things I have always said is that particularly since my grandfather passed away, I said, I can't justify buying a $5,000 pair of shoes just because I have $5,000 to spend on a pair of shoes. Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought. I don't mean to cut you off, but it was just in my head, and I wanted to get it out real quick. And because I always say social media has blown up and exacerbated a lot of these issues and stuff like that. And to your point, I always tell people, not everybody's meant to be a business person. We have to there has to be some employees out here.
Right.
But I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, just from me, being here for 28 years already, and, from what I've observed and stuff like that, what I see is, this keeping up with the Joneses mentality. And, with social media, I feel like it's been exacerbated that much more because now everybody thinks, well, to your point, if I'm not making enough money to go buy a $5,000 pair of shoes, well, I'm really not living my life how I'm supposed to be. Because for whatever reason, society has painted this picture as, if you can't afford these ridiculously absurd material things that you can't take with you when you die, they really have no type of value other than what somebody says their value is. But you do all this stuff, you risk your life. I always say take penitentiary chances. Shout out to 21 Savage. You said taking penitentiary chances to make a couple bucks. Doing whatever it is you can to make all this money to buy these material things just to say, I bought it, I got it. As opposed to just being comfortable, finding your financial comfortability in life. Yeah. And I think that's a big issue.
I think it's a value system.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trust and believe, there are folks who are going to listen to the show and who are going to accuse us of hating. We're just talking like this because we don't have 80 or 90 or $100 million in the bank. But this is what I say to that. Whether the Bible says, I know what it's like to be abased, and I know what it's like to be abound. And I know what it's like to be rich. I know what it's like to be poor. And I think that there's something significant to that biblical principle. The word of God also says that God wishes above all else that we would prosper and be in health, even as our soul prospers in him. I think that total life prosperity is beyond the numbers in my bank account, whether I've got 6 figures and whether I have 1 figure in my bank account, 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever the number of zeros are that are in my bank account. I'm not defined by the numbers in my bank account, because at the end of the day, what we know to be true, not just in this country, but around the world, many a millionaire has killed themselves.
Absolutely. Many people who won the lottery.
Yeah. People who've won the lottery, look, people have bought their lottery dream homes and then killed themselves in it. So money doesn't define me. And it reminds me, many of you know that, part of the reason why we moved to the Dallas Fort Worth area is because we were church members at the Potter's House Dallas under Bishop T.D. Jakes for a long time. And I said, I want to be in the house. I want to be, I've been sitting at Bishop's feet, learning and growing spiritually for a very long time. And I just felt this pull spiritually to be here and to be a part of the DFW community and to be able to contribute to the growth that's going on in the Metroplex and so on and so forth. But one of the things that Bishop said that I just absolutely love because it speaks to his humility, he said, he knows what it's like to not have anything. He knew what it, he grew up poor in West Virginia, for goodness sake. He knows he wasn't always Bishop T.D. Jakes. He grew up very humble beginnings, and he knew what it was like to preach in a storefront church with 3 members, and now he's the pastor of one of the largest mega churches in the world. But I think that people get so caught up in the money that they forget where they came from. And I remember one time I said to one of the multimillionaires that I know that money doesn't have to change you. And she was like, yes, it does. Money always changes you. And I said, I'm not suggesting that money doesn't change the quality of life that you live. What I am suggesting is that who you are at your core is who you are at your core. And going, whether you're going from $3.35 an hour to 6 figures on your way to wealth, you know what I'm saying? I'm still Lauren Denise Pitts at my core. You know what I'm saying? Whether I don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, I'm still little Lauren Denise, Paulette and George's baby, Dorothy and Lester's grandbaby, Andre's mom, Eric's fiance, Eric, Courtney, and Elijah's soon-to-be stepmother, regardless of whether I have or don't. I'm not defined by that. I think that folks get so caught up in validating themselves by all of the material things that are being used to try to fill voids that are caused by other things. And back to the point that I just wanted to make real quick about the $5,000 pair of shoes. See, the type of chick that I am, and I think I hear Steve Harvey saying, I moved out the hood, not because I think I'm better than, but because I don't want to come home and y'all done stole all my stuff out of my house. For me, right, I want to be able to, and let's just keep it 100. I want to be able to go back to Salem whenever I feel like it and not get knocked in the head because of the jewelry that I have on, or the shoes on my feet, or the rims on my truck, or what, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever. If it's just not okay. It's just, I don't, my family is so large that taking care of every single solitary person in my family that hasn't arrived would be a smidge difficult, right? Nobody's trying to go to no family reunion and have folks plotting on whether or not they're gonna kidnap Andre for ransom.
Exactly.
Because let's keep that real. Folk do some crazy stuff for money.
Absolutely. And to your point, I had looked it up. 70% of the millionaires in the United States are first generation millionaires, meaning that they weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They didn't come from money. They did the work necessary to make that money and to become wealthy. And to your other point about money not changing people and making you happy, money does not buy happiness. I mean, my favorite rapper of all time, the Notorious B.I.G. said, "More money, more problems."
Real talk.
Steve Harvey said that for a reason. The more money you make, the more responsibilities and the more time you have to put, the more effort, the more dedication you have to put in. So
the bigger the house, the bigger the responsibility, the more expensive the car, the list goes on and on and on.
And just in the last couple of years, you've had people like Anthony Bourdain, Robin Williams. Robert Williams. I think Robert Williams, right?
No, Robin Williams. You talking about Robin Williams.
And here are multi-millionaires who are just absolutely not happy. Money could not buy their happiness. I always tell people there's not a price tag on this earth for somebody to give you that will buy your happiness. That starts in us being mental health professionals. I always tell people, we overcomplicate life so much. We put all these material things and put value on them as opposed to putting value on people.
Yeah,
You
real
know,
talk.
oftentimes the things that we lack and we desire are not necessarily monetary or material things. It's
Mhm.
human things, spiritual needs, human
Mhm.
needs, that human connection. That's what we need. We always talk about a lot of the things that people go through is because it's either a lack of attachment, a
Mhm.
lack of attention that they didn't get, and that manifests itself into other things. And oftentimes it manifests itself into being, well, if I surround myself with all these material things, if I surround
Yeah.
myself with all these job responsibilities and stuff like that, if I pour my heart into this material thing, my mindset is telling me if I pour my heart into this material thing, then I will get what I need as a human in return to fill myself up. And that's not how it works.
Yeah.
That's absolutely not how it works. I always say we live in a country where they put profit over people,
Yeah, it's the truth.
and why everybody has to be comfortable. And to your point about discipline, and this is why I started the show off with, talking about impulse control and stuff like that. If if you lack discipline with your money, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be shocked if you lack discipline with your sexual desires, if you lack discipline in being committed to relationships and to friends and stuff like that. That's not just in one single area. And people try and fill those voids with money. Well, if I have all this money, I always, how many times you see this with celebrities, especially male celebrities? Well, if I
Mhm.
have all this money and I go out here and cheat on my loved one, well, where's she gonna go? She ain't gonna find nobody else making all this type of money. So I
Take
got
it
her
out
wrapped
the
around my
abuse.
finger. Yeah, and you dangle, we have, like I said, just like how schools dangle this scholarship and these opportunities for
Mhm.
student athletes, the entire system dangles a dollar bill over our head and say, hey, if you want freedom, if you want peace, if you want comfortability, come get this little green note right here. And it's crazy how this green note is losing its value. And now money that's not even real, what we call cryptocurrency, is
Yeah.
now being dangled over people's head. Hey,
About.
come get this imaginary money that we
Yep.
place all this value on. If you want value in your life, if you want to see value
Yep.
in others, do everything you can to get this.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people are empty on the inside. That's why so many people are depressed. That's why so
Yep.
many people are mad at themselves, angry, mad at their
So it's
families, mad at
bank
their loved
account,
ones.
and they just as miserable.
Yeah, money does not make you happy. Does having money make life easier?
It does.
Yes, but
It does.
that doesn't mean life still won't be hard.
Mm-mm. Challenges, and I've said this because what's the flip side of this coin, and people hear it too. I know it's certainly a narrative that exists in my own family. People misconstrue the Bible verse that says money is the root of all evil, and I said that's not
Mhm.
that full scripture. That
I
scripture
hate when people
says for
misquote that.
the love of money
Yep,
is the root of
yep.
all evil, and what that means is, in essence, when money becomes your god, when money becomes your idol, when money becomes how you validate your existence in life, that in and of itself is a problem. And I've always flipped it on my family members that have said that, and I say very simply, so let me get this right, so you good not being able to pay your bills? You all right with that? You good not knowing, you good, holding your breath waiting on that stimulus check because you short on your rent. You good holding your breath waiting on that stimulus check because you can't pay your car note, or whatever the case may be. And I think that, when I think about, like I said, I have wealthy people in my family. I have wealthy friends and colleagues, and so on and so forth. And what is consistent is discipline. What is consistent is education. So another tip that I want to put out here for our viewing and listening audience is this. Every time it's a challenge of sorts, Ronnie. Every time, particularly, these little kids they want to be the next Kobe Bryant, they want to be the next LeBron James, they want to be the next, you know, Zeke Elliott, they want to be the next Tom Brady, or whoever it is they want to be the next. Every
Mhm.
time you fix your mouth to say that, you ought to also in the same breath say, and I'm going to learn everything that I need to know about financial literacy and about money management and about building wealth, so that when I become, because I'm not raining on nobody's parade and stealing nobody's dreams. But
Mhm.
so when I become the next whomever, I'm not broke in 3 to 5 years. It
Yep.
is, there has to be a willingness to get the dollar signs dancing. It's like sugar plums dancing in your head, right? Get the dollar signs out your eyes, get a wealth management plan in place. And that's not something that should start in high school. That's something that should start at birth, which is why you and I have had some of the offline conversations that we've had. It's like that conversation starts out of the womb, and
Yep.
preparing and educating and empowering. And here's the other thing, and I feel like, folk know that HT is not about being a religious show, but we are of the Christian faith. So we, for Ronnie and I, and even for Jared and Andre, biblical principle governs our lives, even with our human fallacies and imperfections. And the Word of God says that we must leave an inheritance to our children's children's children.
Yep.
So it's like we have a godly responsibility to not leave our children in debt. We have a godly responsibility to not leave our children impoverished. And people don't know that. Poverty is a freaking sin.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure talking with people who are multimillionaires and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I don't know if you ever had this debate with people about what we consider good debt versus bad debt.
Yeah.
At the end of the, and even in biblical terms, any type of debt is bad debt.
Yeah.
So this whole argument of bad debt versus good debt, I always tell people, if you're not disciplined enough and you don't have a financial plan to get out of that debt, because nobody goes into debt with the mindset of staying in debt. And that's a poisonous mindset that has been led people to believe is, oh, well, hell, if I get in all this debt, I mean, when I die, most of it's going to be forgiven, or I have a life insurance policy that's put in place, it'll pay it off. What if you don't have that put in place? Like you said, what if you leave your children with this debt, with this student loan debt, mortgage debt, IRS debt, tax debt, all this debt you left behind for your children to foot the bill, or that money that you left behind for your children because you have so much debt, it all gets eaten up. Your inheritance gets eaten up by this debt. Like I said earlier, you don't have to be a millionaire to have a comfortable and happy lifestyle, but you will never achieve that comfortable, happy lifestyle if you have all this surmounting debt that's always in the back of your head. I got this debt, car notes, rent, student loans, credit cards, all this debt that you just build up, and you just say, oh, I'll put it off till tomorrow, I'll worry about it then. Well, tomorrow's coming.
Living within or below your means doesn't mean that you have to live in poverty.
Absolutely.
One of the I said it, one of the things that Eric and I discuss is that, I like big. I like big. I have expensive taste in the whole nine yards. And that's okay, but it's all things in moderation, right? I I do believe, and the financial expert will discuss this next week. Um, Real estate is a beaut. Real estate is a beautiful thing, but I don't need 5 houses. I
Yeah,
don't.
absolutely.
We'll have our main domain, and there are a couple of vacation homes that we're looking at in two other places that aren't even in the country, because we both hail from Caribbean roots. So, but beyond that, a rental portfolio, absolutely. Um, but why do I need 6 houses? Why? Why
Why do I
do
need 10 cars?
Right. Why do I need 6 houses and 13 cars? I'm not a collector of cars. I can only drive one at a time.
Yeah.
I do believe that you need an extra vehicle. So if something happens, you're not dealing with a rental or whatever. So yeah, but I don't need 13 cars. I don't need 13 cars, and I don't need a 15,000 square foot home or a 28 bedroom home that all the rooms are collecting dust. Because guess what? There's only a few family members that I actually want to stay with me when they come visit. All the rest of them, I'm totally okay with them going to an hotel. I'm
I
just
know
saying.
that's
So
yeah,
you know what I
absolutely.
mean? So I don't. There's things, and it's to each his own, right? We're not telling anybody how to live their life. We're not telling anybody what to do with their money when they achieve it. What we are suggesting, though, is to do a values check, do a internal systems check, and to determine what is motivating you. Because if for these athletes that are going into the pros, if you're blowing through this money because you're trying to buy everybody, take care of it. You know what comes to mind? Allen Iverson, and
Yeah.
how when he was playing, like that was something that he was transparent about. Like he took care of everybody. Michael
Hmm.
Vick took care of everybody, and it's like, yo, if we no
And
no.
Michael Vick is a great example of somebody who, trying. I mean, even though the method of going about it for his family was absolutely terrible, but it
Yeah.
goes to show you what he was willing to do to make sure his family didn't go without, even
Yeah.
if that meant putting his own set. And he did put his career on the line, and it ended up costing him, 2 valuable years of his career,
Yeah.
especially in his prime. But it goes to show you that when you're identified as the family savior, or the one who has to make it out, has to be the one to bring us all with you,
Yeah.
that insurmountable amount of pressure that is
Mm,
placed on you, not only as an athlete and as a business person, because as a professional athlete, you're a business person too.
mhm,
They always tell you, as those NFL owners and coaches, that's a business. That is
mhm.
a multi-billion-dollar business, and you are an associate of that business. You are a partner of that business. And when you put yourself on the line for your family who don't share that same aspiration or have those same values as the business that you work for, you will lose it for them.
Yeah. Yeah, Ronnie, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received was from my great aunt, my grandmother's sister, who she never had any children. I was, I was the daughter she always wanted and never had, but I was her great niece, right? And
Mm,
she said something powerful to me um, on her deathbed. She was talking about, when I've been at some of the lowest points in my life, and literally was stripped down to nothing. I didn't have a
mm,
pot, a window. I was homeless. It was just bad. I was just at an all-time low. And she said she wanted me to remember all those that were there for me. And it wasn't many. It was literally, I could count on one hand the people that were there for me, that were instrumental in helping me to grab myself by my bootstraps and pick myself up. But what she shared was so powerful. She said, "You're going to be okay, Lauren." She said, "God is going to heal you. He's going to deliver you. He's going to restore you. And you've learned some very valuable lessons." She said, "Don't ever lend anybody money, because the Bible says it's better to be the lender than the borrower, right? And that
mm-hmm.
the borrower is slave to the lender."
Yeah.
She said, "Don't ever lend anybody money that's not willing to allow you to educate them about what it takes to not have to be a borrower."
Ooh.
Isn't that deep?
Oh,
And
say
I'm
that.
like,
You gotta say that. You gotta say that again for the people.
she said, "Don't ever lend money to anybody who's not willing to allow you to educate them about how not to be a borrower."
Oh man, that.
And it was transformational, Ronnie, because yes, there were, I was a single parent. I was putting myself through college. I was working, like, life happens, all types of stuff. I mean, there have been times, I remember one time, um, there was, Andre was young. I want to say Andre was in high school. I was doing well and had learned valuable lessons and was listening to my financial advisor and my wealth manager mentor and the whole nine yards. And in the grand scheme of things, it didn't seem a lot, but I had a little over $20,000 in the bank. I was
Mhm.
doing relatively well, right? And building, building, building. And I kid you not, Ronnie, in 6 months' time, everything was wiped out. When I say everything, everything that could possibly come against me came against me. And I was lit, just like so many people with COVID and businesses going out of business, and the recession of 2008 and folks crashing and like all this stuff. Like, there are things that no matter how set you can't pay, you can't plan for them. You
Mhm.
can't. The depression of, the Great Depression back in the day, and millionaires was jumping out windows because their money didn't have. There are things in life that no matter how much you plan, you can still get wiped out. And that what happened to Job? There are things that can happen.
I was just getting, when you were talking about the Bible earlier, I was like, the book of Job is the greatest example of being stripped of everything and being tested.
Yep. But as we're closing out today, that lesson was valuable because what it says to me is you want to borrow my money.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been down the road, right? You want to keep coming to me to borrow my money, for example, but you don't want me to know your business. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want my help to educate you and empower you and to liberate you to get you out of this situation for good so that you don't have to come and borrow from me anymore. Why should I keep lending my money to you?
Absolutely. That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah.
And that's the note we're going to close on, that you know there has to be a system check. There has to be an assessment of the values and the motivating forces beyond, the motivating forces behind what are fueling these purchasing habits, what are fueling the attitudes and the belief systems concerning money, the deeper issue, like you said, of the obligation that these athletes feel like they have to have to save everybody in their family. I don't believe that saving everybody in your family means that 5 years later you don't have a pot or a window. I don't think there's any wisdom in that. I don't think that, you know, you can bring your mom out of the projects and she can go into a beautiful 5 bedroom home or 3 bedroom home or 4 bedroom home in a gated community with a housekeeper if you want her to have one. But you buying your mom's a $25 million mansion, that like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. You know what my mom has always said? And we're gonna shut up on this. My mom said, I want new windows. She said, I want, no, real talk. She said, I want new windows. That's what she
Mm-hmm.
told me and Andre. You don't need to build me a new house. I don't need all that. I want new windows for the house that I have. I like the house that I have. I built it. I'm from a family of homeowners. They built the house they wanted. Everybody got the house that they wanted. They're like, you ain't got to buy us no new house. Can I get some new windows? I do, can I have a carport put up? It it doesn't.
That sounds like somebody who they are not influenced by material needs, but the human
No.
connection that you and your mother have. That's what it sounds like influences
All
her.
she
That
wants is some new windows. I'm like, mommy, I got you. I got you.
and probably just spending time with you, quality time with her daughter.
Because at
That's
the end of
it.
the day,
That's it.
you can't take any of that stuff with you. So we're gonna leave you all on that note, folks. We want you to do a systems check. We want you to check your values. We want you to be honest with yourself about what's motivating your spending habits. What's motivating your desire for wealth? Is it just to say that you have it? Is it just to purchase all of these material things for show? Or do you want to use your wealth to be a blessing to other people in ways that don't contribute to their self destruction and your own? Do you want to add value and uplift and sow prosperity and goodness into your community? Do you want to put programs and systems and measures in place that can be instrumental in educating and empowering people to come up out of poverty so you don't have to take care of them? We want you to think about all these things. As we said, April is Financial Literacy Awareness Month. So we're going to be talking about money all month. Next week, we have a financial expert that is going to be with us from one of the major companies in the country that is going to share a wealth of wisdom and knowledge with you concerning financial literacy. So we're looking forward to that discussion. Until next week, I am your sports mental health and empowerment coach, Dr. Lauren Pitts, and my awesome co-host extraordinaire, Ronnie Ransom. We'll see you all next week. Have a good
Happy
weekend.
Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter, everyone. Have a good day.